السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين، خاتم النبيين، شفيع المذنبين، رحمة للعالمين، مولانا وسيدنا أبي القاسم محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين، لا سيما بقية الله في الأرض، أرواحنا له الفداء، وعجل الله تعالى فرجه الشريف، ولعنة الله على أعدائهم أجمعين من الآن إلى قيام يوم الدين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله سبحانه وتعالى في قرآنه المجيد: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حتى إذا جاء أحدهم الموت قال رب ارجعون لعلي أعمل صالحا فيما تركت كلا إنها كلمة هو قائلها ومن ورائهم برزخ إلى يوم يبعثون. For the love of Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad, salawat. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa Ali Muhammad. So we discussed that death on a physical level is when, for example, the heart stops beating and the blood flow stops. And on the Islamic understanding, what we say is that no, it is the decoupling of the body and the soul. And we gave a few examples that even in this life, you can be given a glimpse of this death and this barzakh. When is that? That is the time of sleeping and when you dream, because it has those characteristics that we said are synonymous with the world of barzakh. Time is different, there's a sort of confusion, you can do different things. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Holy Quran regarding this, in 39:42, Allahu yatawaffal anfusa hina mawtiha. Allah takes the souls at the time of their death, and those who have not died in their sleep. Meaning Allah takes even the soul, it's by Allah's will, that the soul will exit your body during your sleeping times, but the cord is not cut, as we discussed yesterday. That link between the soul and the body is still not severed. So you don't die, but you get a glimpse of barzakh. Then He retains those for whom He has ordained death. Some people will die in sleep. Allah keeps their souls. He severs that connection for some people. And releases the others until a specified time. You are given more time every night when you sleep. This is a very, very good reminder that actually one day this sleep is going to be permanent. This sleep one day will be permanent. I'm not going to wake up every morning. If I die in my sleep, so be it. That's the way Allah has decided and determined. Hence, mu'mineen, mu'minat, when we go to sleep, sleep in a very good spiritual way. So we have different things that we do when we sleep, yeah? So people say, drink this kind of thing, drink this kind of tea, go for a hot bath or a hot shower, work out before you sleep and you'll sleep better. Yes, all of that fine in its place, no doubt. In Islamic spirituality, we say, yes, also have a very good sleep, but how? For example, pray a 2 rakat prayer, pray some du'as, pray some surahs, pray some Quran, pray some zikr. If you can keep that manner of reciting zikr even before you go to sleep so that you actually drop off while you are engaged in zikr, Ya Allah, that has a different majah. It has a different effect upon you. It has a different pleasure itself. So these are a few tips. When death comes to us, there is no escaping it. There's no chance. Although many people will regret at that time. Many people, when death comes to them, they'll say, if only I had more time. But there is no chance. Once that death which has been ordained upon you comes, there is no chance to delay it. Don't be like the guy, for example, that one day he's at home and he hears a knock on the door. And when he opens the door, he says, who is it? He says, it is death. He goes to the door, he opens the door, he sees death. He slams the door. He said, no, it's not my time yet. He goes back in his house, death opens the door. Obviously, there's no stopping death. Death goes into the house. So this guy says, look, man, can you not give me some more time? Can I just not have a little bit more time? Even if you give me a few hours, that'll be good for me. I can sort out my affairs. I can ask for forgiveness. I can do my tawbah, istighfar, everything. Death says, look, bro, here I have a list of people. This is what I have to do today. And look, top of the list is your name. So you are going first. He says, okay, tame ek kaam karo, why don't you have a cup of tea with me for a few minutes? Do you have a few minutes? Ek chai pee le jo mara saath hai? Death says, okay, you know what? Okay, fine, I'll give you a few minutes. Make me a cup of tea. He goes into the kitchen, he makes a nice chai. In the chai, he takes his sleeping pills, he crushes them up, and he puts it in the chai. He serves this chai to Death. Death says, thank you very much, drinks the tea, and then Death says, oh, I'm feeling so sleepy. Do you mind if I stretch out a little bit? He says, sure, go ahead, go ahead on my couch, have a couple of hours of sleep. Death goes to sleep. Whilst Death is sleeping, he goes into the pocket of Death and takes out that list and says, look, he says, there's no escaping death, but what I can do, I can give myself more time. So he scribbles out his name, he erases his name from the top of the list and puts it at the bottom of the list. He says, at least I'll have the day to do my affairs and whatnot, and then if he takes me at the end of the day, no problem. A couple of hours later, Death wakes up and says, oh brother, you know what? You've treated me so nicely. You've done such a good thing for me. You made me a lovely cup of tea. You allowed me to sleep. On this one occasion, what am I going to do? I'm not going to start from the top of the list. I'm going to start from the bottom of the list. There is no escaping death. When death comes, it's going to come. It's going to take you. At that moment, many, many people will feel regret. This is our discussion of today, that what happens at the time of death and immediately afterwards. Now, yesterday I left you with a question. How come some people, when this severance of body and soul happens, they will go very happily and very easily. For them, it will be the most lovely, brilliant thing. Other people, no. They will have excruciating pain. They will not want to be severed from their body. Why? I hope you've had 24 hours to think about it. And let me hear your thoughts. Anyone has any ideas? Why? Why some people will have more resistance and some people won't? I think I'll take that. The love of dunya. So let me put it into slightly more, I'll give it a bit more explanation. With one salawat, please. The love of dunya, okay? So we are body and soul. At the moment, we are body and soul. Your soul is created non-physical. It's a non-physical thing. وَنَفَخْتُ فِيهِ مِنْ رُوحِي. Allah says, I blew into him from my spirit. So it's from a different thing altogether. Actually, it's not from anything physical. It's a non-physical, metaphysical thing. The body is a physical thing. The body is related to this world. Once we leave this world, we leave the body behind. The body has its needs, the soul has its needs. Okay. Now, you can either live your life in one of two ways. You can either tell yourself, okay, that I'm a physical being that has the occasional spiritual moment. That's one way of living. I'm a physical being that has the occasional spiritual moment. Or you can say, I'm a spiritual being living a temporarily physical life. You see the difference between these two ways of looking at life? Are you a physical being that occasionally feels spirituality? Or are you really a spiritual being that occasionally you have to, unfortunately, for one reason or the other, you have to live a few years in this life in your physical body and have some physical moments and some physical life. So what happens then is when this decoupling by the angel of death will happen, those who lived a very physical life and all they saw was physical, money and body and image and clothes and luxuries and possessions and makan, negadi, and all of these things, house and car and whatnot. If that's where your time and energy went, then you are so invested in this world that when the decoupling tries to happen by the angel of death, you will resist. You will say, no, I don't want to go. I've got too much here. I've got too much at stake here. I'm too much invested here. I've got my fingers in so many pies over here. I don't want to go. I like this place. Because you've never really tasted that world. You've never really considered that world. You've never really embraced that world. For you, death was something very distant, very abstract. You never really embraced it. You never really thought about it. The other way of looking at it is, no, I can't wait to leave. What is this place? This place is so restrictive. This place, I cannot meet those people I want to meet. I want to be in the company of Amirul Mu'mineen. I want to be in the company of Janab Fatima. I want to meet Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I want to feel the maximum level of spirituality. I want to increase my closeness with my Creator. I want to feel free from this world and its temptations and its issues. This is another way of living. So the person who is too much attached to this world, he has too many investments, or she has too many things going on, and their life was consumed by physical things and physical pleasures only. What will I eat? How will I enjoy myself? What luxuries can I amass? How much wealth can I amass? How much power can I get? How many people can I subdue? How many people can I overcome? How much, image and izzat do I have in Jamaat and society? That kind of person will find it difficult to leave. But the person who says, these are not important to me. I'm not bothered about my money. My money is there, alhamdulillah, it's there. What I need is there. Anything more than that, it's surplus. It's going to go to someone else at the end of the day. My house, okay, I need a house, but it's not so important. I'm not going to spend day and night thinking always about my house and beautifying it and making it larger and buying another place and another place and another place. All of these things will matter at the time of death. When you are pulled and you are decoupled from that body, then the amount of attachment you have to this world will determine how resistant you are to that decoupling. The more resistant you are, the harder it is to decouple. The more resistant you are, the harder it is to decouple. The less resistant, the very much easier it will be to decouple. So the more attachments you have, you will not want to leave. You will not want to decouple. You will not want to sever your ties with this world. So, whether it's merciful and tender, or whether it's harsh and rough, this depends on us, our lifestyle, and our view of this world and how we have behaved in this world. Is it making sense? Is it getting through? Now look at these two verses of Holy Quran. The first one is from 1632. Allah says about those people who are easy to decouple. Easy to decouple. They go very easily. Listen. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alladhina tatawaffahumul malaika tayyibin. Subhanallah. May Allah give us tawfiq to be in this group. He says, those people whom the angels take away while they are pure. They are tayyib, they are pure. Those whom the angels take away while they are pure. Yaquluna salamun alaykum. The angels will say salam to you. They will give us respect. It's as if they've kind of been waiting for us. It's like now your time is done. You've done your time in this horrible place. Come into a much nicer place. Salam on you, respect to you. Udkhulul Jannah. Enter into heaven. Bima kuntum ta'amalun. For all the good deeds you were doing. Now look at the other side of the coin. This is 850. Walau tara. If only you were to see, when the angels take away the faithless, striking their faces and their backs, saying, taste the punishment of the burning fire. How contrasting it is. Same thing happening, same decoupling process, different reaction altogether. One is a very pleasurable, very amazing, very respectful way of decoupling. The other one is very harsh. Why do they hit? Why do they have to hit? Is this cruelty? No. It is because of that resistance. The person is resisting. I don't want to go. Leave me here. Leave me here. Angels say, no, your time is up. Now is your time. You have to go. We have to decouple you. But the insan who is too much invested in world and dunya will not be able to decouple easily. It will be a struggle for him. Where does this purity come from when we say tayyibin? That this first group, the first group of sincere people, they are tayyib, they are tayyibin, they are pure people. Where does this purity come from? How does one become pure and how does one become polluted? Let me explain that with a quick salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. As you walk through life, you are constantly picking up purity and pollution. Both of these things are constantly bombarding you. You come to mosque, you've picked up a lot of purity. You cry for Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you've picked up a lot of purity. You do something for someone in a nice way, you've picked up a lot of purity. You ask for forgiveness, you become pure. You do, for example, ghusl Jummah, you become pure. You pray namaz, you become pure. You pray salawat, you become pure. You pray your zikr, you become pure. You open the Quran and read it, that is purity. All of these things are there. Then on the other hand, you're doing bad things, na'udhu billah. I'm sure none of you are, but this is just an example. You do ghibat about someone, pollution. You miss your prayers, pollution. You ignore Allah, pollution. You be rude to God, pollution. You don't respect, for example, teachings of Ahlul-bayt, pollution. You do zulm on someone, pollution. You be rude to your family, pollution. You do zulm on your kids, pollution. You do zulm on your spouse, pollution. All of these things are added. You see, on one hand, this is adding up. On one hand, this is adding up. So throughout our lives, we are constantly picking up purity and pollution. Now, at the end of the day, we'll have to be judged upon this, yeah? So when at the time of your death, this is all in you. This is all in you already. This is all inside us already. All of these purities and pollutions. Therefore, Azizan Muhtaram, I want to give you some advice, although I'm not qualified to give advice really. But if you take this, then you take it from, for example, our senior ulama and our Aimma alayhimus salam, that before you sleep every night, perform istighfar. Say sorry to Allah. Allah, I did wrong. Allah, I'm sorry. Allah, forgive me. Allah, I don't know if tomorrow I'm going to wake up in the morning. I don't know. I step out my house, what will happen? I don't know in my house what will happen. I don't know anything. I'm completely in your hands. Oh Allah, forgive me. If you are to take me in the next moment, forgive me for what I've done. Imam Musa Kazim alayhi salam says, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Laysa minna man lam yuhasib nafsahu kulla yawm. Ya Allah. I don't know, are we qualifying as Shias of Aimma alayhimus salam? Imam says, he is not one of us, meaning we don't regard him as one of our Shias. The man or the woman who doesn't take account of himself or herself every day. Every day we need to be doing hisab and kitab of ourselves. What did I do today? Aaj hun su kairo? Guna thiyo? Agar thiyo hoy, maafi mang. Agar nathi thiyo, to alhamdulillah. Kain saru kaam thiyo che, to alhamdulillah. Khuda no shukr. Kain kharab kaam thiyo che, to pachi istighfar, toba. Every day, every night you must be doing this. Muhasaba, muhasaba, muhasaba. Taking account of yourselves. So, at the time of death, the angels, they will either be, you will either see them as friends or enemies. How can an angel be an enemy? Angels are never enemies. Angels are pristine, beautiful, wonderful creatures of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They can never be enemies. So when I say they can be enemies, it's your perception of the angels. You will perceive them as either friends or enemies. You will perceive them based on your background and your lifestyle and your understanding. So how stubbornly the soul is attached to the body will determine the pleasure or pain of death. How stubbornly are you attached? How much are you invested? How much worldly and dunyavi have you become? This will determine your pain or pleasure at the time of death. Now death happens. The soul is taken, whether pleasure or pain. It is taken. Now, in this world, to operate in this world, what did we need? We needed this physical body, this shell over us, correct? This is what we said yesterday. To exist in this world, to walk around, to touch things, we need a physical body. In the barzakh, it's not a physical realm anymore. These three-dimensional objects are not there anymore in barzakh. So here we needed this body, and we needed our parents to train us how to use this body, correct? In the barzakh world, we will have a new body, barzakhi body. Barzakhi body. This barzakhi body has eyes, but not physical. In other words, it can see. It can hear. It has some sort of hearing. It has a mind. It can perceive. Now, some people, this is really, really special. Are you ready for this next part? Can I go into the next part? The next part is that this is very, very special, which I want you to pay a lot of attention to. There are some very special people in this world who can access their barzakhi body whilst still alive in this world. They can access this barzakhi body. They get those flashes of barzakh. They get those understandings of barzakh. They can see certain things of barzakh. They can understand certain realities of barzakh whilst in this world. How? Because they have reduced their attachment to this world to such an extent, they have worked on their purity to such an extent that their barzakhi body is already semi-formed and they have access to it. For example, let me give you a couple of examples. For example, Ayatollah Bahjat, rahmatullah alayh. Ayatollah Bahjat in his younger years, see, we know Ayatollah Bahjat in his older years, yeah? We've seen him in his older years. In his younger years, people report that he asked his teacher a question. He asked his teacher, he says, Agha, when a person exits this world and goes into barzakh for a time, and then let's say after a day or two he comes back into this world, into his body, that day or two of namaz which he has missed, does he have to pray qaza or not? And all his peers and all his classmates, they concluded he must be in this position, that he's going from this world and then he's coming back. Another one. Today in Jummah, we covered this point. Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, Allahumma sallam. He says in his khutbah, وَحْفَظُوا أَلْسِنَتَكُمْ. Careful of your words. Careful of your kalam. What you say in this month, or any month. This month is a training for the rest of life. What you say, be very careful. Which words you are using. How you are speaking to people. What kind of jokes you are telling. What kind of, God forbid, ghibat or gossip if you're going into that. Be very careful. Now, Agha Hassan Zadeh, rahmatullah alayh, one of the recently deceased maraji, great man. In fact, can we say, for all of the arwah of our maraji and ulama, a loud salawat please. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Ayatollah Hassan Zadeh, he says that on one occasion, he had a routine in the summertime. His routine was he would wake up early in the morning, he would engage himself in his work and his different activities. Then at Zohar time, he would pray his Zohar, and then he would have something to eat, and then he would rest. He would go to sleep for a couple of hours. Then he would wake up at Asr time. He would wake up at Asr time and continue his other activities and his works. On one occasion, in that heat of the Middle East, that heat of the Middle East, it was summertime, he does everything as normal, he has his lunch, he goes into his place of sleep, he tries to sleep. The children of the house were doing what I would say is like, dhamal. They were doing dhamal. They were shouting and running and this and that. Too much noise, he couldn't sleep. So he says, I got a bit irritated. So I got up and I went to the children and I said something to them. I don't know what he said, but it wouldn't have been anything major, I mean, like knowing him and his character, it would have been something, by our standards, I would say mild. Okay, fine. He said, I said something to them. Then I went back into my place of sleep. And then my soul did not let me sleep. I felt so bad. I said to myself, Bachcha che, masoom che, these are kids, these are sinless. What do they know? They don't know any different. I have gone and I've broken their hearts. They were scared of me. So he couldn't sleep. So he said, you know what, let me buy them something to make it up to them. He goes down the road, he goes to the shop, he buys what we call shirini in Farsi, mithai, sweets. He comes back with his shirini and he says, you know what, bache ha biaid, come you kids, eat, let me feed you some sweets and whatnot. Then he says to himself, I have broken their hearts. Ba shirini kharam durust nemishe. with this sweets, my issue is not going to be solved. He felt so bad. He felt so bad. He said, there's only one rasto, there's only one way that I can get rid of this ill feeling, this down feeling in me. I must go and see my teacher. His teacher was in a different city, Tabriz. You know who his teacher was? He was, you've heard of Allama Tabatabai, author of Al-Mizan, you've heard of him? This name is familiar, yes? Allama had a brother. Allama was Sayyid Muhammad Hussein Tabatabai, his brother was Sayyid Muhammad Hassan Tabatabai, and his nickname was Ilahi Tabatabai. Ilahi Tabatabai. He said, I want to go, I need to go and meet him. Marudir halku karwa mate, I have to go and meet my teacher. He goes to Tabriz. He knocks on the door of his teacher. Teacher opens the door. Aghaya Hassan Zadeh. Hassan Zadeh, you are here. You are meant to be in Amul. What are you doing here? He says, Ustad, I need to come and see you. I need to spend some time with you. He said, yeah, Befar might come in. They sat and they were talking. They were talking that initial kemcho tikcho, that initial how are you, what's happening, how's everything going. They had not even gotten into any serious discussion. At that moment, his teacher, Aghai Ilahi Tabatabai, says to him, Aghai Hassan Zadeh, Marhum Qazi is not happy with you. Marhum Qazi is, you know who? Sayyid Ali Qazi Tabatabai, the great Sayyid Ali Qazi Tabatabai, who was one of the main teachers of all of that next generation of ulama, the great Sayyid Ali Qazi. He said, Aghai Qazi is not happy with you. Agha Hassan Zadeh said, I had not said a word. I had not even told him what had happened. I had not even gone into this. He said, Sayyid Ali Qazi is not happy with you. So Hassan Zadeh asked, why? What does he say? And Agha Ilahi Tabatabai replies, he says, tell Hassan Zadeh, you want to speak like this and then serve Imam Zaman? Do you expect to speak like this to people and then serve Imam Zaman? So Aghai Ilahi had this connection with barzakh. Do you see the point I'm trying to make? Aghai Ilahi Tabatabai had this connection with. So there are people in this world who have these connections with the next life. Their barzakhi body is already activated to a certain extent. Then of course you cannot even say regarding our imams. Our imams, though, they were on a different level. Amirul Mu'mineen, for example, who says, لَوْ كُشِفَ الْغِطَاءُ مَزْدَدْتُ يَقِينًا, that if you take away all the different veils from this world and give me access to the barzakh, it would not increase my yaqeen even by an iota. Why? Because I'm already there, basically. I'm already in that position. Aghai Hassan Zadeh, he says something else very interesting. He says in one of his classes, now I don't know if I can take this literally or if it's like a myth, but anyway, what he was trying to say is, he says that there is a metal in this world. Again, I don't know if this is a myth or reality, okay? He says there is a metal in this world with which they make swords. And that metal is so sharp that you cannot put it into any sheath. You understand what I'm trying to say, yeah? Sheath of the sword. The metal is so sharp, it cannot be put into any sheath. It cuts the sheath open. His students interpreted this as what? That there are some souls who are so pristine and pure, they cannot remain inside the body. Amirul Mu'mineen makes a reference to this in Khutbatul Muttaqeen. وَلَوْلَا الْأَجَلُ الَّذِي كَتَبَ اللَّهُ لَهُمْ, if it wasn't for the definite time of death that Allah has ordained for them, لَمْ تَسْتَقِرَّ أَرْوَاحُهُمْ فِي أَجْسَادِهِمْ طَرْفَةَ عَيْنٍ. Their souls would not remain in their bodies even for the twinkling of an eye. There are some people like this. Don't be amazed. Maybe some of you are amongst them. I'm sure, probably you are. But there are people like this. There are people like this. Only they know the amazing life that they lead. Only they know the amazing perception that they have. Only they know what they have seen. So when we are taken, when we are decoupled, when the body is left behind, we now need to adjust to our barzakhi body. Our barzakhi body resembles in a few ways like we are It has, like you can say, for example, color will be similar. Features and expressions will be somewhat similar. It's very difficult to explain because that is a non-physical world. But this is what we gain from our teachings and our riwayat. Now, these barzakhi bodies, do they just spring into action on the day that we die? Do they somehow manifest themselves out of nothing? Is it just like an abracadabra moment that this body appears? No. The body just doesn't appear out of thin air. This barzakhi body right now is being formed for all of us. Right now it's under construction. Right now it's being built. Every movement and thing we do is contributing to the building of that barzakhi body. Azizan, are you with me? You're with me, yes? Right now, what we are doing, wherever you look, whatever you do, whatever you say, whatever you think, whatever you say, whatever you pray, whatever you spend on, whatever halal roji that you have, naudhu billah, haram roji if anyone has, that is all contributing to the building of this barzakhi body. Right now. So when we die, it doesn't just appear out of thin air. It is there waiting for us. It is our reality in the next world. What kind of body will it be? How will it be? What powers it will have, inshallah. This we will discuss tomorrow, inshallah, if we are alive. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Oh Allah, we ask you for tawfiq. We ask you for your forgiveness. Bless our marhumeen. Keep our community strong and united. Oh Allah, prepare us for our death and barzakh. Allow us to have a good death, a good barzakh, a good qayamat, inshallah. Birahmatika ya arhamar rahimin. For the quick zuhur of Imam Zaman, let's have a loud salawat ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad.